Hello, hello, my friends. Now, this is slightly different from usual because I am not in the infinite void, which is wherever Chris has deposited me this week. I am, in fact, in somebody's back garden, and I'm very, very happy to be here because it's bloody warmer than I'm usually at. Now, none of that is massively important. What is important is the fact that I am Jean Ferric, and I am here to bring you all of the ups and downs for Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 1, Episode 3, Ghosts of Illyria. Now, overall we have a strong episode again this week, which is focusing mostly on number 1. Now I like this because we have, for the most part this season, not really focused on her character. We had her a lot in Season 2 of Star Trek Discovery, and again, of course, in Q&A, which is probably one of the better short treks that we've seen. Overall, I think it works really, really well. Having said that, my first up of the week goes to Ortega's. Really enjoyed her last week, really enjoyed how she's being depicted as the navigator of the Enterprise, and we don't really know what's in the future for this character because in the timeline that we're aware of at least, she's not on board the Enterprise when we see Kirk take over, so we hope everything's going to end well. But what we see this week is that she is able to at least protect Ensign Lance from smashing his face in. Now, he certainly gets a good old wallop into the wall, but she is able to stop a second wallop from going. There's been a little bit of discussion this week online about the depiction of Ortega's and specifically how she looks. And I'm here to say that I couldn't care less. What I do care about is how wonderful Melissa Navia has been, and particularly in that without giving us reams and reams and reams of time in the episodes, she's able to give us a fantastic character who is powerful, who is wonderful, and who, if I ever decide to put my face through a piece of glass, I would kind of want her on my side. Woo to you too. Another up that I have for this episode is how Pike and Spock are depicted. They are both trapped down on the planet as the ion storm takes over and blocks their transport, and what we get is not massively important in terms of lore or anything like that, but it shows them as working together, having a relationship together, and most importantly, building this history that allows us to believe that by the time Menagerie rolls around, yes, Spock would risk his commission for this captain. Pike, we have seen several times, is human, is flawed, is full of fear and knowledge, whereas Spock in this instant is, well, he's a bit like your stereotypical young Vulcan, isn't he? You know, he knows it all, he's done it all. We know he hasn't done Kolinar, but imagine he's, you know, fresh out of Kolinar, you know, well, look how wonderful I am. Haven't we all been that way out of college? We see some lightning between the two. We see a lot of development between the two characters, none of which sacrifices the established lore of Spock in Star Trek's history. And thankfully, we don't really have a lot of Pike lore that we need to worry about. There's not an awful lot between the two of them this week, but it works for me. It develops the two characters, and it's definitely an up from me. As the away team beams back to the Enterprise, we see a virus starts to kind of move through the crew, and this brings me to my first down of the week, and that down is the inevitable discussion of Khan. La'an Noonien Singh, we have all known, is a descendant of Khan, and you know, we knew that this character was going to play a part later on. And the way that both La'an and Una discuss this character is that, oh, you know, you don't even need to vaguely explain who Khan is. You don't need to vaguely talk about, oh, what role they have in Star Trek's history, because everyone knows who Khan is, right? Right. So did Spock miss that lesson in history class? And that is my problem. Now, Akiva Goldsman did say before Strange New Worlds aired that they would be paying attention to canon without massively, you know, basically if canon ran into story problems, they wouldn't be losing a lot of sleep over it. And largely, I'm not going to worry about that. You've got so many mentions of the augments here, of Khan himself, of the eugenics wars themselves, that they clearly are paying a lot of attention to canon. And we're supposed to believe that Spock, who is, you know, the most diligent student of them all, just didn't take history class. So it was a little bit of a down for me. The inclusion of Khan as a character, grand. You know, kind of, how do you miss someone who's so important in Star Trek history? But the way that they did it, sorry. The reveal of number 1 to be Illyrian, ergo not human. Now this ties in very nicely with beta canon, which says in the novels that no, she was not human to begin with, and that works absolutely perfectly for me. As always, Rebecca Romaine plays the character wonderful. We may not have a lot of examples of this, but enough so far that I'm quite pleased with it. While I stand by my down for how Khan was included in this episode, I will say the revelation that Illyrians worked with genetic sequencing and genetic engineering as well. Yeah, okay, I like that. I get why she would hold that from people, and specifically from Starfleet. So yes, that's an up from me. I like the relationship between number 1 and Pike. Of course Pike would want to protect his first officer, so I'm totally on board with all of that. We're still operating in a time of, you know, cowboy diplomacy. Not massively shocking to me that this is how Pike would choose to behave. I'm okay with this. I want to know more about the Illyrians. I want to see more about them. I do like that reveal. I do like it very much so. This is a rather large down this week. So M'Benga has just been keeping his daughter in the pattern buffer. Why on earth would you do that? Now, right, on the one hand, you've got protect your children at all costs. Great, no problem with that. You have the entire library of Starfleet Medical at your fingertips. Now let's say that they don't have a cure. All right then. Would you not make it your first port of call at any moment? We've had several scenes of M'Benga so far, none of which have seen him caring even in the slightest about his daughter who's been living in the pattern buffer. I'm really sorry. This was a very weak reveal for me this week. It's not that I don't like the story point, that's fine, but do it earlier. If the big massive switch was, oh dear, it's accidentally M'Benga's problem that this virus came aboard the Enterprise, then yes, okay, someone, Pike, if nobody else, should have known about this. I'm sorry, this didn't work for me. You know, that lovely sweet scene at the end where he is talking to his daughter and he's reading her the story. Yep, lovely, that itself, grand. But she's living in the pattern buffer, and also, the pattern buffer's fine, as long as you rematerialize. Maybe that's why Franklin died. Now that we've been through all of the ups and the downs for this week's episode, walk with me, if you will, wherever I am in the world. Dissertation Observations. Now, the first and biggest of this week is, of course, genetic modification and the augments themselves. This is a tie-in, of course, to Space Seed, to the Wrath of Khan, to Dr. Bashir's in Dr. Bashir, I presume, and to the augment story in Star Trek Enterprise. We have the Boatswain's whistle as number 1 walks onto the bridge. We have a wonderfully fun scene where number 1 is lying down, ripping her shirt. And I mean, if that's not a callback to Kirk, I don't know what is. Number 1 is Illyrian. Now, this race has appeared in Star Trek before. In fact, they appeared in the Star Trek Enterprise episode Damage. This came in its 3rd season during the Xindi arc. This featured a guest appearance from Casey Biggs, who would be most known as Leggett, Gull, Glynn, Corpse, Damar. He appeared as an Illyrian captain from whom Archer and Enterprise stole a warp coil because they were so desperate to get back to Earth. It was one of the darker episodes of Enterprise, and they looked alien. I will say that. They did not look like Una. Now, any number of explanations for that. But, yeah. Didn't paint the crew of Enterprise in a great light. Put it that way.
Space pirates. With an armed boarding party, he invades the other ship, steals the much-needed warp coil, thus stranding a group of innocent spacefarers years from their home. Real classy, Starfleet.
Bit of a nice callback to that episode. Now, there was never any mention there of the Illyrians having any experience with genetic engineering, but the Illyrians would have been left with a taste of a not very friendly Starfleet. So the fact that they were then no longer allowed to be discussed by the Federation, quite frankly, this could have been Archer's fault. Now, and last but not least, which is a slightly dark one, which is Chief Kyle is trying to beam the away party back from the planet, and there's a question of, if it goes wrong, what will they get back? And oh dear, that reminds me of poor Commander Sonak from the motion picture. Don't worry, what they got back didn't live long, thankfully. That is everything for this week, my friends. If you enjoyed everything, let us know in the comments. If you reckon I missed anything, let me know below. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Remember, every time that you do, you are helping this channel to grow. Next week, who knows where I will be? I may be in a star field. I may be in somebody's back garden. I don't even know what continent I'm going to be on. Quite frankly, I don't know where I am now. Who knows? You're all awesome and wonderful. You can catch us over on Twitter at TrekCulture. You can of course catch myself at Sean Ferrick on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok as well. Until I'm talking to you again, look after yourselves, stay kind, stay lovely, treat yourselves with respect and happiness. My friends in Ukraine, we are thinking of you. Stay strong, live long and prosper. Have a wonderful day. Make it so.